So Johan and I were just
Hi.
discussing about the art of thinking smart and where great ideas come from. They don't always come from the top. And you had this really good story that I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, it's an old story. It was in America. I can't remember the company, but basically, it's a company that made these widgets. I can't even remember what the widgets were, but I just remember the gist of the story, if you like, and the moral of the story. But basically, they were making these widgets, and the widgets had to go in small boxes. Those small boxes then had to go into a larger box. Let's say 48 into the larger box. The larger boxes then went into bigger boxes, then onto a crate, and then got shipped to the customers, business to business, commercial stuff. And so, what had happened here is that for some reason, some of the small boxes ended up being empty, and it was only discovered by the client, the customer, the end user, the end customer, the commercial end customer. And they started to get really annoyed because they'd order pallets of these boxes with 48, and some of the boxes had 46, some of them 42, some of them 48, some of them even less than 42. And so and by now the reputation of the manufacturer is starting to really slip, and etc. And so it gets to the top, and it now ends up on the chairman because it's become a PR issue for the company, national in America.
Yeah.
And they sent in consultants, they did surveys, all sorts of different ways to try and find out what went wrong, and they couldn't find out what went wrong. So the chairman decides to visit the main plant, and his second in command hadn't been there for a while, so they go and they do a surprise visit. So they arrive in this massive plant where everything is happening very, very fast, all these very expensive, very fast machines manufacturing and packaging this stuff, and they walk in the plant and they see way back, they see this vent duct dangling from the ceiling, and the guy, the operations director, gets really angry that there's that level of bad maintenance in his office, in his factory, and he figures, well, if it's that bad, the maintenance that bad, no wonder we got some serious problems here.
Right.
So he gets very irate. Then he calls the foreman, and the foreman says, hey, relax. It's actually, there's a reason for that. So what reason can it be? Bad maintenance. So it's not bad maintenance. Jack over there, whatever his name, he's come up with a great idea. There's 2 meters of section of the chain, the assembly chain, the packaging chain, where all these little packets are filled with the widgets, and then they go through this exposed piece of chain, and then they go into the boxes, right? And so there's a quality control thing, if you like. And what he did, he took the duct, which was blowing cold air, and he blew it onto the chain so that any empty boxes that went through were blown off the chain, and they no longer had the problem of empty boxes in. So the customers were no longer complaining. Yeah. Now it didn't resolve why the machines weren't filling them all, but at least now they've resolved the customer crisis. Yeah. And so that's a good example of the Japanese principle. I don't know that I don't think they purposely had that there, but it's a good example at that lower management level. They allowed employees, they encouraged employees to come up with ideas. Right. Yeah. Or perhaps in that case, the employee was so fed up with it that he came up with the idea himself, and the foreman said, "Hey, it's working. Let's keep it that way." Yeah. Great. That was the story. Yeah.